Hey guys, this is Justin with Rocky Mountain ATV MC, and this is our DRZ400 adventure bike build. All right, so if you're looking for a very capable, smaller, lightweight adventure bike, the DRZ400 is an awesome choice. Now, it's not a new bike by any means. It's been around since 2000 when it replaced the DR350. They've had a few variations of the bike. They quit making the off-road only version back in 2007, and they're still selling the DRZ400S and SM model, which are both street legal. Now the difference between the two is the SM is going to be your supermoto version. It's going to have smaller wheels and fatter tires, more for the street. So I'm using the DRZ400S, and it makes an awesome dual sport bike, and I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why. First of all, this thing is very reliable. It's been around since 2000, like I said, and it's got a proven track record of being a reliable, trustworthy bike. Next, it's relatively inexpensive. I think brand new, these things are $6,500, and since they've been around so long, it's pretty easy to find a used one for a lot less. The bike is great on the road, it makes a great commuter, and it carries freeway and highway speeds no problem. And it does awesome off-road, which is why you want a lighter, smaller displacement adventure bike. So great off-road, does well on-road, and last of all, something that's very important for any adventure bike is the availability of accessories. Because there are so many of these bikes, it's easy to get parts and accessories for it, and that's really important. Now, I've had this bike for a little over a year now, and I really like it. I've had it through a lot of desert roads, dirt roads, trails. I've had it through Death Valley. We've taken it up over a lot of mountain passes, got into some snow a little bit, and I feel confident in saying that the DRZ400 is an awesome adventure bike. So just like with any bike, they're not perfect stock off the showroom floor. There's some things you've got to do to them to make them more capable when you're doing these bigger rides. And so I want to talk about some of the accessories and mods I've done to my bike to maybe help you, give you some ideas when you're getting ready to take your DRZ on an adventure. So to start off, I'm going to talk about the must-haves for this bike to make it worthy of those big trips. All right, first off, this is important for any adventure bike. You've got to have fuel range. So the first thing I do to any bike I ride is put a bigger tank on. On this bike, I've got the IMS 4-gallon tank, and that gives me a range of just over 200 miles, typically, depending on how I ride it. Now, on some of our rides, we go longer than that between gas stops. So I've also got the Rotopax gallon jug on the back, just in case. Give me that peace of mind when we're riding, and it has come in handy several times. Now we also carry the Safari 7.4 gallon tank, which is really big. So if you're a hardcore adventure rider, you might want to look at the Safari tank. Next, to go along with the range on the bike is the jetting. Now this thing came jetted awful. The first ride I took it out on, I got about 130 miles out of this tank with the stock jetting. I thought it was going to be running leaner, but you know, when we got on those high-speed roads, when you're going 70, 75, it was just sucking the fuel, and it never even ran, it didn't even run that good. So that kind of surprised me. I put in a JD jet kit, and I opened up the top of the airbox so the bike can breathe a little bit. The bike runs so much better, has better power, and my range, like I said before, is around over 200 miles, so it's a lot better than it was stock. So if you've got a DRZ400S or SM, I highly recommend the JD Jet Kit. Next is protection. You know, when I go adventure riding, I like to stay off-road as much as I can, so protection for the bike is really important. I've got a Ricochet aluminum skid plate on the bottom. They're awesome. They're very tough. You're not going to have any problems with rocks going through your cases or anything like that if you've got that skid plate on. Next up, very important, is you've got to be able to carry your luggage. So I've got the tusk pannier racks on here, and I can run the hard tusk panniers, or I can run just about anybody's soft bags. Whether you're a commuter or a serious adventure rider, you've got to have a top rack on your DRZ. They're inexpensive, and they just make hauling stuff a lot easier. And of course, with the pannier racks and the top rack, I've got to have my luggage. So right now I'm running the Giant Loop Siskiyou pannier setup, and I put about 3,000 miles on these, and I really like them. They're extremely durable, pretty simple. They've got one main compartment on each side, and then they have this front compartment where you can put your bottles of fuel. I put bottles of water in there. And that sounds like a real simple thing, but it's one of my favorite features about this pannier setup. It's just nice to be able to have quick access to your water and a place to put it that's not with your clothes or anything else. So I really like the front pockets on those. Going up top, I have my Wolfman Expedition dry duffel. I've had this bag for a few years now. It works awesome. It's extremely durable, and I put all my camping gear in here. So I have my tent, my sleeping bag, my pad, pillow, and a few other things. I'll throw a jacket in there. I even have a hammock in there in case I, camp where there's some good trees. But anyway, I can put all my camping equipment in here, and I tie it all down with these rock straps. These are awesome. They're elastic on one end, so you can cinch everything up really tight and it's not going to go anywhere. And last but not least, with the luggage, is my Wolfman Enduro tank bag. I've had this thing for a few years and I love it. Again, built really well. And it's nice to keep all the things you need quick access to in your tank bag. So I keep my sunglasses, lip balm, sunscreen, snacks, whatever, right there. And it works really well. That's definitely a must-have. Now let's talk about my electronics that I've got to have. Got to have a GPS. We usually map out trails on Google Earth, throw them into the GPS, and there's our route. So got to have a GPS. Next, I've got my inReach satellite communication system. If I don't have cell service, I can send messages to family saying I'm okay. And if there's an emergency, that thing's going to get me help. So if you're traveling alone especially, you should have one of these. Even if you're in a group, somebody should have something like this. Now mine's a little bit older. The newer ones are actually a little bit easier to use and have a little bit more functionality, and they're available on our site. Next, let's talk a little bit about tires. The stock tires that come on this thing are primarily made for the road, so they're not going to do real good off-road in the dirt. So over the past year, I've been trying a few different ones out. The Dunlop D606 is a great choice. I've run that many times. I have tried the Continental TKC80s. They're also a great tire, maybe geared a little bit more toward the street than the Dunlop. And right now I'm actually running the Michelin AC10s, and they're definitely geared more to the dirt. They're extremely aggressive. So, depending on what you're doing, there's some great tire options out there that are going to perform well on the street and in the dirt. A quick note on the tires, I always like to run rim locks. The bike doesn't come stock with them, but in the event of a flat tire, a rim lock is going to keep the bead of the tire on the rim a little longer. So I feel like it's a little safer. Now the downside to putting rim locks on is it's going to throw the balance of the wheel off a little bit. And to balance that out, I've got to run wheel weights. So that's something to consider as well. Last on my must-have list is foot pegs. If you're going to be taking this thing off-road at all, you're going to want better foot pegs. So I've got the IMS Pro Series pegs. They're a lot wider, a lot better cleats, and you're just going to be able to hook up on them a lot better. Now moving to some of the more nice-to-have items. The first thing I want to talk about is the DRC Edge 2 rear license plate holder. Now this just replaces the big, bulky stock unit. I think it looks a lot better, and I run a lot less risk of breaking that stock thing off. So I get rid of that stock thing right away and throw this on. Next, I want to move up to my handlebars. I love having grip heaters on the bike, so I've got the Tusk grip heater kit on here. Works great. You got to have those in cold weather. I've got the double take mirrors. I hate when stock mirrors get knocked loose by a tree or branch or something, and then you've got to get your wrenches and tools out to fix them. This thing uses ram mounts. I can set them wherever they want. If they get bumped, I can just push them back into position. So I really like those. Up front, I also have the Baja Design Squadron Pro LED light. This is really nice off-road when you get stuck in the dark. The stock headlight just doesn't cut it, so that really lights things up. I also have the Tusk D-Flex handguards on, and these are the handguards with the integrated turn signals. So I've actually removed the stock turn signals and I'm running these instead. Next, I have the C. Bailey's windshield. This is really nice for the highways. You know, if the wind's beating you all day, it's really nice to have a windshield. Now, one thing I want to point out with this windshield is I felt like it was a little too close to me. It didn't give me enough room for the GPS and my inReach. So I actually put some spacers between the number plate and the windshield just to kind of, you know, give me a little more room back in the dash area. And speaking of the dash area, I've put this little plastic plate up here where I could actually put my switches for the light, for my heated grips, and for my power socket. You've got to have a power socket to keep all your electrical devices charged on these rides. So this little plate's really nice. I just cut it out of a 1/4-inch piece of plastic, and it works really well. Last but certainly not least is my Seat Concepts seat. Now, I've run these on several bikes and I just love them. If you're going to spend most of the day on your bike, which you do on an adventure ride, it pays to have a seat that's a little nice to your butt. So I really like this seat. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. Those are some of the things that I've done to my DRZ400 to make it a more capable adventure bike. Like I said before, this really is a good adventure bike. If you're looking for something lighter weight in the adventure world, this is a great choice. Now, keep in mind, we have all these parts and accessories on our website, so be sure and check that out. And be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more bike builds like this, bike tests, and product spotlights. Thanks for watching.